In the heart of Zamora, a village surrounded by thick forests and the gentle flow of the Blue River, lived a woman named Nene. She was the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen. Her skin shone like morning sun, and her eyes sparkled like stars in the night sky. Her hair was long and dark like the shadows of the forest. When Nene walked through the village, men would stop and stare. Women whispered to each other, some with envy, others with awe. Every man in Zamora wanted to marry Nene. Simbo, the strongest hunter in the village, brought her the biggest antelope. Maggie, the clever fisherman, gifted her baskets full of the finest fish. Others gave her gold, beads, and cloth. But Nene smiled and said, "I am waiting for the right man." One day, Nene announced, "I will marry the bravest man in Zamora. He must meet me by the Blue River when the moon is full." Excitement filled the village. Simbo, Maggie, and many others prepared to prove their bravery. When the night came, the full moon lit up the river like silver. Simbo was the first to arrive. Nene stood by the water, her beauty glowing in the moonlight. "Follow me into the river," she said, her voice soft like a song. Simbo stepped into the cold water. Suddenly, something grabbed his leg. He screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the night. He was gone. The next day, Simbo did not return. Maggie was next. He went to meet Nene, full of courage. She welcomed him with her sweet smile. "Follow me into the river," she whispered. Maggie stepped into the water. A shadow moved beneath the surface. He felt cold fingers pull him under. He struggled, but the river was stronger. He vanished into the deep. One by one, the men of Zamora disappeared. The villagers became afraid. They whispered that Nene was not a woman but a spirit from the river. Some said she was the river's bride, sent to take men into the depths. One night, a curious young boy named Keto hid by the river to see the truth. He saw Nene standing by the water, but when she thought no one was watching, her skin changed. Her face stretched, her eyes turned black like the river. Her beautiful hair turned into long, slimy weeds. Her voice became a hiss. Keto ran back to the village, screaming, "She is not a woman. She is the river's bride." Fear spread through Zamora. No one went near the river again. But one day, Nene appeared in the village once more. Her beauty was even greater than before, and her smile was sweeter. She walked through the village as if nothing had happened. "Why do you fear me?" she asked softly. "Have I not always been kind to you?" Some villagers were still afraid, but others began to doubt Keto's story. "Maybe he was just a child with a wild imagination," they whispered. One brave young man named Damu, who had not been in the village during the disappearances, stepped forward. "I am not afraid of you, Nene. I will meet you by the river when the moon is full." The villagers gasped. Keto tried to warn him, but Damu laughed. "I do not believe in spirits. She is only a woman." The night of the full moon came. Damu walked to the river, proud and fearless. Nene was there, her beauty glowing in the moonlight. "Follow me into the river," she said with a gentle smile. Damu stepped into the water. It was colder than he expected. He felt something brush against his leg. His heart raced, but he stood firm. Suddenly, the water began to ripple. Nene's smile grew wider, too wide. Her eyes darkened, and her hair floated like black snakes around her head. Damu tried to run, but the water pulled him deeper. He felt icy hands gripping his arms. "Let me go," he cried. The river answered with a low, gurgling laugh. Damu fought with all his strength. He kicked and punched, but the hands held him tighter. Just when he thought he would be dragged under, he remembered the small dagger tied to his waist. He pulled it out and slashed at the hands. The water hissed, and the grip loosened. Damo scrambled back to the shore, gasping for breath. Nene stood on the water, her face twisted with anger. Her voice was no longer sweet. It was a terrible screech. "You cannot escape me," she cried. Damo ran back to the village. He gathered the villagers and told them what had happened. Together, they went to the river with torches and drums. They chanted and called upon the spirits of their ancestors for protection. The river roared and bubbled, but the villagers stood strong. Nene's voice echoed through the night, but it grew weaker and weaker. Finally, the water calmed, and the moonlight danced gently on its surface. Nene was never seen again.